Okay, so let's get back into our coverage over the dawn of DC, where we actually do pick up with Green Lantern War Journals. Now, this is all about John Stewart, and honestly, I kind of like what I've seen so far when it comes to this particular series. Now, when it comes to the opening pages of this book, we do pick up in space, where we do pick up with a group of astronauts who are currently working on some kind of space station. Now, one of the crew members is on the outside parts of the station trying to do some repairs, while the rest of the crew is inside. Now, out of nowhere, the entire crew plus the station is hit by some kind of energy wave. Now, with this energy wave hitting the crew in the station, everything is thrown off. But once the crew inside is able to get back on their feet, they realize that there was some damage done to the actual station, to the point where they are beginning to lose oxygen. But on top of that, their one crew member who was on the outside parts of the space station, well, she's still out there, and they're wondering if she is okay. Now, luckily, she is able to radio in and say she's okay, but she does see something. Now, when it comes to her team, they're telling her, hey, we got a problem here. Like, we are losing oxygen. Somewhere on the space station's a crack somewhere, and you have to seal the crack. But she is so distracted by what she sees out in the middle of space. And matter of fact, she flows towards it, and she finds out it's a ring. Now, we could say that this could be a lantern ring, but tell you right now, it's not. Either way, once she is able to actually grab the ring, it begins to talk to her in a way where it's kind of like, hey, you should take me, use me, and let me take over your body. Now, of course, she does that. She puts the ring on while her crewmates are screaming out for help. And we're left to wonder, what happened to the crew? What happened to the astronaut that found that ring in the middle of space? But the problem is, we have to jump down to Earth, and we pick up with John Stewart. And when we do, we kind of find out that John Stewart is currently living with his mother. Now, this is not like, okay, it's John moving in with his mom because he had hit the lowest point of his life. No, it's really more because, one, he left the Green Lantern Corps, but two, because his mom is not there mentally. And so he wants to be there to kind of help her out. But at the same time, he is doing different kinds of projects to kind of fix the place up. But also, there was some huge needed repairs in the house. Now, getting back over to his mom not being there mentally, it does kind of get to the point where she does ask John about his sister. But the thing is, his sister has been dead for years. But when it comes to his mother, well, she does not remember that. She still believes that, one, John is a hero, but John is actually a grown adult, but her daughter is also around as well, even though her daughter been dead for, a good period of time. And so you have John walk outside because he hates to talk about the idea that his sister is no longer around. Except when he does go outside, he is attacked out of nowhere. Now, we can tell right off the bat that he was attacked by a Green Lantern. Now, we have to remember that John Stewart is no longer a Green Lantern. And so for him to be attacked, that means they believe he did something wrong. And matter of fact, when it comes to this Lantern Veron, matter of fact, his name is not really important. And the reason why, because he will not be around that much longer. Either way, when it comes to Veron, when he does appear, he said he detected lantern energy. Now, he already checked in with the other lanterns who live on Earth. The last one to check in with is John Stewart, who's no longer a Green Lantern, who should also not have a lantern ring. And so to Veron, it's kind of like, okay, you are basically breaking some rules here. But John Stewart is not breaking any kind of rules. And the reason why? Because remember, he's no longer a Green Lantern. And most of the time, when it comes to Green Lanterns, their powers comes from their lantern ring. And John Stewart left his ring behind when he left the Green Lantern Corps. Except we have to remember in a previous story arc, when it came to John Stewart, well, he was able to evolve. And when he did go through an evolution in some kind of way, he was basically able to unlock a new kind of power that's very similar to Green Lantern powers. And so even though he no longer has a ring, he's still able to make different kinds of constructs to be able to fight against Varan. And matter of fact, Homeboy does defeat Varan very easily. But here's the thing though, because did Varan actually detect John, or did he detect somebody else? Possibly the ring we saw earlier out in space. Now, once you have John Stewart being able to defeat Varan, he does go back inside, except when he does, once again, his mom does ask about his sister. And again, it's kind of a hard thing to talk about because she died years ago, but his mother does not remember the death of her daughter. And so you have John go out of his way, use his powers to make a construct of his sister to just please his mom, just for a little bit, to give her something to hold on to, even though her daughter is dead. And it's kind of sad. But we have to jump back over to space. Once again, the space station that was attacked earlier by that ring that appeared out of nowhere. But we do pick up with another Green Lantern, and this would be Kal-El Shepard. Now, when it comes to Kal-El Shepard, he is a Green Lantern, but from another universe, who arrived in this universe, the main DC universe, to find the Radiant Queen, somebody that he is trying to stop. And we are technically told the ring that was found earlier belonged to her. Now, when it comes to the space station, once you have Kal-El walk around, his ring tells him, hey, there's some radiant dead here, which means the Radiant Queen is able to take dead people and kind of raise them like zombies. And so the radiant dead begin to attack Kal-El. Now, Kal-El ring also tells them that part of the space station, it did crash on Earth. And if it did crash on Earth, that's a problem, because that means the Radiant Dead is on Earth. And the only way to stop the Radiant Dead is to stop the Radiant Queen. And of course, the Radiant Queen is trying to find one particular person, and that would be John Stewart. Now, when we do jump into the second chapter, well, we do pick up with Varan again. The Lantern got his butt kicked earlier by John Stewart. Now this time, Varan did bring in other lanterns as well. Now we also kind of find out that Varan is trying to prove something if he is able to bring in John Stewart back into the higher ups. He is looking for a huge reward. Either way, the reason why he believed that John Stewart did something on Earth is because earlier the space station was attacked. Now we already know it was attacked by the Radiant Queen. That was the lantern energy that he detected earlier. But either way, that piece of the space station did crash on Earth, and Varan and his lantern friends, they find it. And they believe that it was John who attacked that space station, even though we know it wasn't him. Now, this is why I say when it comes to Varan, he's not going to be that important, because after this section right here, he goes bye-bye, because as soon as he walks inside the actual broken space station on the Earth, well, he finds somebody, all right, but who he finds is the female astronaut we saw earlier, who does look like being possessed by the Radiant Queen. And when she turns around and sees Varan and his lantern friends, well, she begins to literally murder them. Yes, you heard that right. She begins to murder them. These three lanterns are getting their butt whooped left and right, to the point where they are killed off by her. But she does say she came to Earth looking for one particular person, and that person would be John Stewart. But when we do pick up with John Stewart, we see him in Metropolis. And the reason why? Because he has an interview with who? John Henry Irons, aka Steel. Because remember, when it comes to the Dawn of DC, they're trying their best and trying to do different things with other characters besides Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And so when it came to Steel, he was one of those characters that was always close to Superman, but unfortunately, he was always a background character for a very long time. Either way, though, in recent years, really recent months, they gave him his own series. Now, it was only 6 parts, but it was an entire series about the idea of John Henry Irons having his own company, Steelworks, in the middle of Metropolis, and he was trying to make Metropolis a better place for everyone, to the point where the city would no longer need superheroes at all to actually protect it. But getting back over to the interview, when it comes to Steel, the reason why he invited John over is to, say, hey man, listen, I heard that you are a great builder. Like, you love inventing different kind of things. You are able to realize the fault in different kinds of machines. And I need your help when it comes to some projects. And so you do have Steel show John one particular project that Steel is currently working on when it comes to Steelworks. And of course, John is able to figure out how to fix the problems that Steel is facing with this one particular project. And as soon as John is able to show how smart he is and how great of a person he is, well, you have Steel say, you know what? I feel like you would be a great fit for my company. Now, there is another reason why John wants to move back to Metropolis, and that would be for his mother, because we kind of find out that apparently him and his mom, and most likely his sister, used to live in Metropolis, but of course they left the city a long time ago. But he always knew that his mom loved Metropolis so much, and so he wants to give her the ability to be back in the city that she loved so much. But on top of that, he wants to make sure that she is safe and sound, because again, he has to take care of his mother. Now, we can kind of tell one thing here, that she does know that he is a Green Lantern, or he was a Green Lantern, because she still believes that her son is a superhero who goes out there and fights alongside with Batman and Superman, not realizing or not being able to remember that her son is no longer a Green Lantern. But we also kind of find out that she felt like in the past that she was holding him back to have the ability to be a full-time hero, because he's always trying to protect her. Either way, he's all like, no, Mom, I just felt like we should go ahead and move back to Metropolis. But the moment is ruined when you do have the Radiant Dead appear. And of course, they came here to go after John Stewart, to somehow take care of him for their queen, the Radiant Queen. Either way, John does try his best to fight against them. And John really does try his best. But unfortunately, there's too many of them. Now, the members of the Radiant Dead this time is the Lantern we saw earlier that were killed off by, most likely, the Radiant Queen. Either way, when it comes to the Radiant Dead, they even tell John Stewart, in another life, which means in the other universe, she hated you the most because you always defeated her. But this time, you will not stand in her way at all in this universe. And we kind of find out they were able to stab John Stewart to infect him. And it seems like John Stewart might become part of the Radiant Dead, so that the Radiant Queen is able to remove him from her possible goals for this universe. And so as we dive into the next chapter, we do see John Stewart trying his best to fight against Varan. Now, when it comes to Varan, he tells John Stewart that he now has been affected by the Radiant. And of course, sooner or later, John is going to join Radiant Dead, the Radiant Dead group. Now here's the thing though, because you also have Varan, who's part of the Radiant Dead, tell John the infection will spread even faster the more time John tries to use his powers. Because when it comes to the Radiant Dead, it loves to absorb different kinds of lights, especially Lantern's light. And so the more times John tries to use his lantern light powers, the quicker the infection is going to spread. But the thing is, John is trying his best to defeat Varan, but to also protect his mother as well. Either way, the battle does go on for a few more pages. But luckily for John Stewart, he is saved by, well, another Green Lantern. Matter of fact, it's one we saw at the tail end of the first chapter, and that will be Carolyn Shepherd from the other universe. He does arrive just in time to help defeat Varan, but to also save John, but to also make sure the train does not crash at all, which of course does save John's mother as well. But at the end of the battle, you did have John pass out. Now you do have John begin to dream about the idea of like what the world would be like if John never did continue on as a superhero, which unfortunately that's his current status right now, where he did give up being a superhero and believing that Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman should be enough to protect the Earth. But unfortunately, in this dream state he's having right now, he realized it could have been a mistake with him no longer being around, being a hero on Earth, because right now the world is falling apart because of some kind of war. Now, with all that being said, while he's in this dream world right now, somebody is trying to talk to him, but it's John trying to keep the voice out of his head because he does not believe the voice is actually real. And the reason why, because what he's seeing around him, destruction everywhere, he knows this is not real, that this is some kind of dream, or possibly he is dying. Either way, he does try to wake himself up. Now, when John does wake up, he realized that he's no longer on the train. Matter of fact, he's now at Steelworks, where he is confronted by Steel, who is currently wearing his steel suit, leaving John to wonder what in the world happened after he had passed out. Now, you do have Steel tell John that he was brought here by another Green Lantern. Of course, that would be Shepherd, the one from the other universe. Either way, he does tell John, that guy brought you and your mom here, and we try to figure out what in the world is going on with your arm, but unfortunately, all the different kind of tests we ran does not help us at all to figure out what kind of infection you have and how can we actually beat it. But you know what? You need to go find that other lantern because he is probably the key to save your life, but to also take care of what future problems could come down the road. Now, once you do have John go outside, he is confronted by the other Green Lantern, Lantern Shepherd from the other universe. Now, right off the bat, you have Lantern Shepherd basically tell us that one, when he looks at our John Stewart from the main DC universe, he's not impressed at all. Because back in his universe, John Stewart was some kind of powerhouse, most likely the best Lantern of all time. Which does lead into the conversation about the Radiant Queen and why she is here. Because she had constantly failed to fight against the John Stewart in the other universe, she came over here to get her revenge, but to also take over the Earth. And so with all that being said, now with our John Stewart being affected, she already got one thing she wanted. But on top of that, her next goal is to begin the process of trying to take over the actual planet. Now again, when it comes to Shepherd, when he does look at our John, he's not impressed at all. Except that is the moment where we kind of find out the voices that were speaking out of Shepherd's ring is actually Kyle Rayner. When you have Lantern Shepherd and also John being able to enter in the space between moments, they do get confronted by Kyle Rayner, the spirit that lives inside the ring of Lantern Shepherd. Now, of course, this Kyle Rayner is not the main DC universe Kyle, it's from the other universe, where he does explain a little bit about the Radiant Queen. And technically, it's everything I already told you, how like she's just upset at her John Stewart and her universe. So she came over here to kill one off, but to also take over a Earth. Either way, though, when it comes to Kyle Rayner, he does tell John, listen, man, I heard in this universe, you're no longer a Green Lantern. I heard you gave up on the Corps. But the thing is, we need you back out there as a hero to help us defeat the Radiant Queen. Because unfortunately, we believe that you are the only hope to save your world. Now, when it comes to John, he's not down with the idea of just running off to be a hero again because of his mother. Because he did promise her this time that he was going to stay for good, to help her out, to be there for her. But unfortunately, it's Kyle saying, I know, man, I know you made that promise, but unfortunately, you're going to have to go out of your way to help out your universe once again. I'm sorry, but you have to realize, if you don't do this, your promise to your mother is basically going to mean nothing, because she'll die as well. And so John realized he has no choice but to go ahead and help out Lantern Shepherd and Kyle fight against, well, the Radiant Queen. And so he does go back into his mother's room. We kind of find out that after the train incident, she did get a little banged up. And so currently she's in some kind of coma. But on top of that, though, she'll be left behind at Steel Works, being watched over by Steel. But this is him having the hardest time to say goodbye to his mother once again. Because again, he did promise her that he'll be here. And even though she is so proud of her son being a hero, he hates the idea that she's so proud of him, because he feels like he still hasn't done enough to earn that from his mother. But on top of that, he feels like if he does break this promise, then there's no point of her being proud of her son. And so this is a heartbroken man, but he realized he has to do what he has to do to protect his mother. But then we have to jump back over to the rainforest, and the reason why, because we do pick up with some gang members that are going to a particular area that's actually near where the space station had crashed at earlier. Now, with all that being said, you have these gang members looking for people they had working in this area, but all their workers have gone missing. Now, we already know why, because the Radiant Queen was hiding out in this area. And when it came to the Radiant Queen, well, she began to take over different people and add them into her Radiant Dead army. And so when it came to those workers, well, they did join the Radiant Dead army, and they are about to attack the gang members in this area. But this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.